everyone, and welcome to the Personal Development and Growth and Comfort Zone Challenge. Today's webinar will be presented by myself, Zinhle Kunene, and I am an industrial psychologist by profession. My colleague, Jean-Andre Potgieter, who's also an industrial psychologist, as well as Lerato Wana, who is a registered psychologist. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to this webinar. Just a couple of house rules before we start. If everyone can please note their questions down during the webinar, and at the end of the presentation, we will give chance for questions and answers. Also, please note that the presentation is being recorded. So after the webinar, it will be made available to everyone in attendance today. How we will structure the webinar is we will have an introduction, which is what I'm doing now, as well as a video that's going to introduce the topic of today, personal development, as well as comfort zone. Immediately after that, we'll have an engagement session through the chat box, and then we will unpack the concept of comfort zone, as well as the stages of personal growth. Followed by that, we will look at how does one get started and how do they structure their going forward. And then we will get into the comfort zone challenge or the mental health challenge, followed by a quick closure as well as question and answer. Again, please note all the questions that you might have during the webinar. They will be addressed at the end of the webinar. Okay. I hope you guys have a fantastic time and enjoy this webinar.
Someday, maybe not soon, but someday, this plant is going to be a tree. But you see, a lot of things have to happen for that to happen. This plant cannot be allowed to grow into a tree in its current location. You see, that plant needs to be uprooted from where it currently is so that it can be allowed to grow to its maximum size. That's going to be a lot of discomfort. It's going to have to be uprooted completely. Risk probably dying if not done properly to be able to reach its full potential. So you see, in life, comfort and growth, they do not coexist. If you want to grow, you have to learn to see situations that make you absolutely uncomfortable as an opportunity to grow. You see, your elevation might just require your isolation. So what if you lost your job this year? So what if you lost people? So what? So what? Maybe those things that you lost are going to be the reason why you become what you need to become. Maybe those people that you lost have been holding you back all this time. Maybe their leaving your life is the reason why you're going to begin to do the things that you always were meant to do. So maybe stop thinking about all the things that you lost and start thinking about all the things that you want to be. There is no growth without change. There is no change without loss. There is no loss without pain. So everything that you're feeling right now, from all the things that seem to turn your world upside down, are a part of your process. Understand this. Believe it, because it's the truth. As long as you still have life and a willingness to achieve, you are unstoppable.
And I'm better now than I was when you saw that 22-year-old undeveloped kid running from Sunday Lister. I'm experienced now, professional. Jaw's been broke, been lost, knocked down a couple times. Bad. Been chopping trees. I done something new for this fight.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lerato Wana here, counseling psychologist by profession and manager of the Mafeking campus student counseling center, excuse me. I want us to engage in the chat box and just answer the question. If I can just get some input. Why do we think personal development is important? Can I just, I'll give you about a few minutes. Let's see if we can get some responses in the chat box before I give up my ideas. But please, 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 let's engage in the chat box. Zintle and John, are you guys managing the chat box as well now?
Yes, Lerato, we are.
Okay. You'll just let me know if there's anything in there. Maybe I should type in there as a start. Ah, there we go. I see something's just come through. It's important to be the best version of yourself. Brilliant. Shanae, I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. In order to become the best version of yourself. Good, thank you, Morena. Anybody else? We'll keep it open for about another 60 seconds. Maybe 90 if necessary seconds. If I just put some things in your mind, think about where you are and where you want to be. Maybe that will encourage the thinking. There's always space for personal improvement. Thank you for that, to enable you to unleash your full potential and also be able to accept and move on from worldly pressures. Okay, interesting one. Kuntle fela. Last 20 seconds. Anybody else have anything else to add? It's important to have a clear and precise life goals while being fully aware of yourself holistically. Okay, thank you, Amkelani. In order to strengthen your abilities to the fullest. And that is Andile AJ. Thank you. Guys, I think we are on point, especially the first two comments that spoke about going after your best self. I think that's the most simplest and brilliant way of explaining why we even think about personal development or growth or challenging ourselves towards that. I just also want to add that it's a bridge, it's the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Hence, I threw that as a key. We are sitting where we are right now as individuals, and you sit and you think in 5 years' time, or maybe next year I want to be, maybe in 10 years' time, this is where I want to be. So it's literally that. Your personal development is literally your thinking, your plan, your thoughts about where it is that you want to move yourself into. What's also important, psychologists, we speak about, it's a rejection of complacency. We want to reject comfort zone, and we want to reject security and the sense of satisfaction with where you are. So personal development speaks about rejecting that space and constantly looking beyond yourself and looking at stretching your own abilities, sharpening the weaknesses and enhancing the strengths that you would have as an individual. So thank you for that. Okay, thank you for that brief introduction with the video as well.
Okay. I just want to find out, can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, so let's just take a minute in trying to understand growth personal development, and challenging yourself. What is it about? What do we need to focus on? So if we start in terms of personal development, I, as an industrial psychologist, I am very prone to personal development. I believe it is something I do and focus on daily, and it's one of my priorities, as it is with eating. As I need to eat, I need to spend time in developing myself. But there's also stages you can go through in terms of personal development. And during this webinar, jot this down, make this an interactive session for you. If you have to quickly go and get a notebook or just write on a piece of paper, do that as a way to keep you accountable. So in terms of personal development, there's 5 stages one goes through, and it's not a singular process, it's a continuous process. Firstly, we start with self-awareness, we get environmental feedback, there's preparation and planning, action and implementation, and reflection and adaptation. So let's look at the self-awareness. So in order for you to really develop, to grow, and to go through a comfort zone challenge, you need to focus on your self-awareness. At this stage where you analyze yourself, you think about what you can do, where you need improvements, what are you all about? Sort of as in also your identity, your values, what's important to you as a person. Some of the things you can, for example, do is various assessments, like the values in action, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the Enneagram, the DISC assessment. There's so many assessments. You can ask people, your friends and your family, how do you view me? What do you think my strengths are? What are my areas of development? So start with the process of self-awareness, sitting down and sort of in a way looking at yourself through the mirror and seeing what am I all about. Secondly, we get environmental feedback. So this is where you get feedback close to people who are, to the people who are around you. It's not always good and constructive to ask strangers because, or friends, it can be either or, but I think choose people who you really look up to, who you find valuable, whose opinion matters to you, and who knows you. Get some feedback on your strengths, your areas of development, and just get some inputs into your personal development process. A question you can ask them, or questions you can ask them is, for example, what are my strengths and areas of development? You know me, so can you help me jot that down from your point of view? What are some of the habits or behaviors that you have observed that potentially limits me to move forward, to progress, and to achieve my goals? And also, what are some of the things you admire about me? Because we as people, we respond well to encouragement and upliftment, not always just negative feedback, this is what you're doing wrong, or this is where you need to improve, but also where this person admires you. Thirdly, so after you follow the self-awareness or self-assessment process, secondly, you went to ask feedback from the environment or the people you trust, you now go into a stage where you design for yourself. It's called the life design, where you go and sit down and you jot down, but what do you want for your life? You've determined what your strengths and your areas of development are, your values, what you stand for, your vision. But now you have to prepare and to plan what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. I've said in many of my webinars, sometimes the students, I think they think they will wake up one morning and they will feel inspired and their whole life is going to change, where it's not always the case. It's micro habits that have been implemented every day and consistently implemented every day that ensures that you reach your potential or that you progress and grow as a person. action and implementation. So this is where you physically decide, okay, this is what I have to do to get where I want to get. And it's going to start with small implementable goals by means of a personal development plan. This plan forces you to implement your goals. So, for example, you can say, maybe by the end of the year, I want to maybe declutter my house. You're not going to do it in one weekend. So small micro habits is to pack away things that are cluttering within your home and maybe take cupboard for cupboard to clean out that. Small achievable goals. And then the last step in the personal development stage is reflection and adaptation. So this is where you look at your plan, you look at accountability partners, but also you reflect consistently in terms of where you are and what needs to happen if some life changes happens and it sort of hinders you to achieve your goal, and you need to adapt and rethink, what am I going to do now? For example, maybe the loss of a loved one causes you to not feel as inspired to progress or achieve your goals. Then there's a platform or a space of reflection and having to adapt to the circumstances and think, okay, what am I going to do moving forward? Can I just get some thumbs up to say that you will be following this process and that you can relate to this process, that this isn't such a big task, but it's actually something a student can do. I see I get some nice thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so comfort zone. We research tells us over and over again, we are very fragile individuals with a lot of potential and a lot of abilities and a lot of strengths. And we sometimes need a lot of encouragement and motivation for us to move out of our safe and control environment. It's so important that, with personal development and growth and getting yourself out of your comfort zone, it's so important that you as a person understand that you need to get to do things that is uncomfortable for you to move from the safe and in control to the place where you grow as an individual. So this comfort zone circle indicates that most of the time we like to stay within our comfort zone. We like staying here, but it's safe and it's healthy for us, or we think that. Then as soon as we maybe take one step, so that one time when you challenge yourself to do something different, we go into a fear zone where we think we lack self-control, we worry, what did I just do? Why did I do this? I find excuses. Maybe there's a certain dress I want to wear that's going to get me out of my comfort zone. It's going to increase my body confidence. But now people say, sure, should you really be wearing that dress? And we are affected by others' opinions, which causes the fear zone within our minds to activate, and we withdraw back into the comfort zone. We say, okay, let me be safe. Let me be in control and not do something that's going to cause a lot of opinions, or it's going to put the focus back on me. But today I want to challenge you. The more times the fear zone's going to happen. I'm not going to say to you, if you go into, or if you challenge yourself, you are going to go into the fear zone. You are going to think sometimes, I've made a mistake. I wasn't supposed to do. What am I doing? But if you move beyond that stage, you go into the learning zone where you actually see, wow, people's opinions don't really matter that much. I'm able to acquire new skills. I actually have the capacity and ability to deal with these problems and these issues or challenges, and I extend my comfort zone. And then when you've overcome this stage, we go into the growth zone where you actually set new goals for yourself, you conquer the objectives, you live your dreams, and you find your purpose. But the one thing I want to ask you today is that it doesn't matter how stressful the situation might be. Sometimes we think the worst that can happen. We imagine the worst possible outcome. I'm going to fall. I'm not going to do this. This is going to happen. But I want to encourage you today, most of the time, it doesn't happen. Most of the times, these mountains or things that we make up in our mind doesn't happen. So I want to challenge you today, get out of your comfort zone. Small ways, like talking to a stranger more than just hello, asking them, how are you? That small things, doesn't matter how people respond to you, that helps you to get more confidence in speaking to more people and overcoming that fear, for example, of people. Moving on to the next is the circle of control that I want to talk about. So in terms of the circle of control, we have three. You will basically see there's number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay, 3 different types of circles. So in our lives, we have, or in this circle of control from Stephen Covey, he indicated that this first circle that I have here, circle number 1, refers to the circle of control. So this encompasses the circumstances or the problems that we have control. I can control my mood, my work ethic, my words. I have the power to influence this within my own life. The second type of circle, this light blue, dark blue circle that I have, is referring to the circle of influence. So the circle of influence encompasses those challenges, issues, problems that we have indirect control over. So I can control this directly, but I have an indirect control over the circle of influence. This includes, for example, problems involving other people's behavior. We cannot directly control them, but there's a good chance that we can have an impact on influence based on our choices or our actions. So, for example, I do not necessarily have an indirect influence on my commitments. Life circumstances can maybe cause me to refocus or change. But also, for example, if I do my part and I keep my side clean, whatever happens beyond that circle is out of my control, but this can be in my control. And then we have number 3, circle number 3 here, which refers to the circle of concern. So what I mean by the circle of concern is that we have indirect control. This is no control. We do not have control over this. This place is which we, for example, we cannot really do something about it. And it's sometimes this circle, it's sad here, but this circle is sometimes the circle that causes the most issues within our lives and the times we try to control the most, yet we have the least control in this circle. So we put a lot of time worrying about the media, about celebrities, cyber threats, strangers' behaviors and driving habits, traffic, where you were born, passing of a loved one, the weather, etc. And if only we could really focus on the first circle here of what we can control, it will improve our mental health so much more. So what I'm saying in essence here is stop worrying about, because unfortunately, this circle represents our life. If we move beyond these circles, we grow, we get out of our comfort zone, and we develop as an individual. But unfortunately, as I said, we focus mostly on this outer circle. We're trying to control here and put so much of an energy. That's why some of the students, or many of the students, are so unhappy over their lives, because they are trying to use or waste all their energy on something they cannot control, instead of focusing their attention on circle number 1, which is the circle of control, and circle of influence, circle number 2. You can have a direct or indirect influence as a way for you to move forward. Thumbs up if you can understand and you can relate to this. I'm challenging you today. Go and write down what are the number 3s in your life, the circle number 3 that you tend to spend a lot of energy on that you shouldn't, and what are maybe some of the inner circles here that you can control, for example. And then I have this quote that I want to read to you. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Some things are up to you and some things are not up to you. Your opinion are up to you. Your impulses, desires, and aversion is also up to you and your own doing. Our bodies are not up to us, nor are our possessions, our reputations, or public offices. All that is whatever is not our doing. And this Epictetus said this, is a Greek Stoic philosopher. Okay, that's all from my side.
Right. Jandri, I actually want you to go back to the previous slide, the one that with Epictetus. I just want to stay there a bit with the students. Jandri asked a question about thumbs up, whether we can relate or we can integrate, which was telling us about the circle of Stephen Covey's circle of control in our lives. I didn't see the thumbs up. I just wanted to, because what I'm about to say ties in very nicely with what Jandri was telling us now, with the 3 concepts that she spoke about. I still want to see the thumbs up. Cynthia, are we getting thumbs up?
Yes, we are, slowly.
So important, the 3 concepts. And I feel they have a golden thread running amongst all of them. For instance, when we speak about overcoming fear, that would then tie in with the 2nd circle. It's vital that we look beyond the fear. And what I'm about to talk about now in terms of how do I develop one's personal development, you must always remember, I think for me, the point of departure is remembering that this is your process. And this is why I feel what Jandri was talking about now was so important. And your understanding of the 3 concepts is vital to your departure when you're starting your own journey in personal development. It's your journey. There is no competition with anybody. It's yours. And this is why it becomes vital that you zoom in on that it's your journey, and that also might help alleviate some of the fear that comes with the change. I put up in the chat box that with change, there's always going to be an element of fear, because the comfort zone is actually technically where we want to stay. We do. But we sit and we dream and we ponder about what life would be like if I was there. And this is the bridge I was talking about with regards to personal development. That thought, what would life be like if I was there? Then we take off. That's the departure point. Okay, we can move on to my slide. We did get thumbs up, Sinclair. Sinclair?
Sorry, Riaz, I'm talking, I want myself muted. Yes, we are getting thumbs up.
That's okay. So I liked the idea of the drawing board, and I use the drawing board because, for one reason, actually, it's visual. It's easier. Psychology says a visual representation is easier to follow and to dream more about than if it's written and it's in words. So I speak of the drawing board, but your drawing board can be anything. It can be a diary. We just need a place where you are able to start dreaming and start thinking about where it is you want to be, in pictures, in words, if you are a more cognitively inclined person. But the mental practice that is utilized in personal development is usually visualization. It's been proven to help with motivation and confidence. Therefore, this is why some people will speak about the vision board, something very similar. When you see it, you actually get to dream about it even much more, and it's easier to track the changes and improvements more effectively. Your plan of action actually includes drafting and implementing where it is that you want to go. So think about that place where you want to be, then go back and start thinking about how you're going to get there. Before the how part, I want to say to you, what do we already have that is contributing already to this journey that we need to get to that place? So I'm Lerato. I one day want to be, off the top of my head, a minister in the Department of Education. So what do I have currently as Lerato, as a counselor psychologist? What skills, what personality traits do I have? What psychological traits do I have? What spiritual traits do I have? As Jean was speaking about the 5 phases, the stages. What do I have in me already that is already existing that I probably just need to build up on? Then I start looking at what am I going to need to actually get there. I hope you're with me. I hope you're understanding. So it's a process. It's yours. This is why you can never be in competition with anybody when you are in your own personal development plan. Even if you shared it, the next person may not have the same dream. Even if they wanted to copy you, they're not going to end up anywhere because it's not their dream. Somewhere along the line, they're going to start feeling uncomfortable and they're going to become complacent because it's not what they want for themselves. And this is why the personal development journey becomes yours. And your decision to move out of a comfort zone into a growth zone is yours. You time it. You decide, okay, now I'm ready, or maybe I'm not ready, not as yet. Just going through my notes quickly. Right, so we basically want to transform this process into a workable plan of action. So these aspirations that you have for yourself, in the personal development plan, we want to transform it into a workable plan of action for yourself. And if I think of it emotionally, it's a little bit more than just, I want to feel good about myself. It runs deep because it's long lasting. So feeling good about yourself cannot be just a one-day thing. If we're planning on growing in that aspect of our life, we need to continue doing it. We need to seek deeper in terms of what is it that is robbing us of that process of feeling good about ourselves. Are you with me? I like the thumbs up idea, Jean-Marie. So I'd like to get some thumbs up just to make sure everybody is with me. But that's basically what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about, that's the process where we're at. For me, the primary thing is it's your journey. You decide when it's time to start it. Your fears, Jean-Marie said your fears, you can even go out and consult and ask somebody else about some of the fears that you have because they are yours. Not right, not wrong. They're just fears. They're there. They have to be valid because you're feeling them. And this is why even when you consult, they can never be questioned or you can never be judged because this is part of the process. And personal development is a lifelong process. Even as we are as professionals in our own rights, we are continuing to think about what's the next step. I cannot find myself doing this again next year. I need to do something else. Let me build up on where I am right now. Lifelong process. I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps bring it all in after what Jean spoke about with all the theory, with the three concepts that you spoke about. Thank you.
Okay, lastly, I want to move over, as Lerotte spoke about this, transform it into implementable plans. So doing something physically. So while I'm chatting, use the chat box also of something that you will be doing for the next 63 days. I spoke it in a previous webinar to say change, real change only happens or starts to happen after 63 days. A lot of people say it takes 21 days for you to change habits and thoughts and behaviors. It does not just take 21 days. It takes 3 cycles of 21 days to make the necessary changes, or that there's reinforcement of a certain habit or behavior. So use the chat box and indicate to me which one of these tasks will you be doing for the next 63 days. You can use your own. This is not the only list, but what will you be doing? What's the mental health challenge you are committing to? I have, for example, do one thing this week that you are afraid of. Whatever fears you, do it. Do something you might not necessarily like. For example, walking. Change a bit of the neural paths in your brain. Give something special away to someone. Go somewhere you've never been before. Smile at 4 strangers. Compliment somebody. Help a stranger. Learn a new word and use it. Make a list of life goals and dreams. Kick bad one habit. Plant a tree or a spekboompie. List 3 things you're grateful for daily. Reach out to somebody you admire. Most of the time, people actually do respond when you reach out to them. Research other theories of religion or spirituality. Approach someone who intimidates you and give them a compliment. Give a non-generic response to someone. So, for example, not saying, yes, how are you doing? I'm good, doing well. But give a non-generic response. And do everyday things differently. Walk a different route. I'm asking you this question, what is the worst that can happen if you do this? It probably won't happen. Thank you for these students who've indicated in the chat box what they will be doing. I see here they will be listing 3 things they are grateful for. They said they will be learning a new word or phrase and then to use it. I have a list of making life goals and dreams. I have also do everyday things differently. I have, thank you for all the chats that are coming through, list of goals, definitely. And I will respond to the questions I've seen just now. I will respond to the questions that I see there are too. So I want to challenge you. The pinnacle or the essence of personal development, growth, and challenging yourself in the comfort zone is to, I also say I'm going to list 3 things that I'm grateful for daily. So the essence of personal development, growth, and comfort zone is it's going to cause a lot of anxiety, maybe, and stress in the beginning, but the more you do it, the more you challenge yourself, the better it gets. This is probably a bad example, but this is what I can think of now. Maybe Lerotte and my colleagues can help me, but if, let's say, for example, a relationship is over, the first time after the relationship is over, you bump into that person, it feels as if your heart is going to jump out of your body and you can't breathe, and it's also as if you need to be resuscitated. But every time you see that person, it gets manageable and better. I'm up to a stage where you don't even feel anything. Your body doesn't respond to the anxiety. It's you're coping better. And that's the same with personal development, growth, and challenging yourself. At first, it's going to feel like the worst mistake. You're going to question yourself, but tell yourself, no, I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to do that. It's going to get better the more that I do it. Okay, all from my side.
Thank you, Janre. Before we get to how you guys can refer to the student counseling and development, maybe we should take questions first, because I see we have questions that will require some engagement. So if you can do that first and then come back to the slide, Janre, if that's fine. Fantastic. The first question is from B.S. Kupeka, and he asks, how do we control overthinking? Because sometimes I just feel like it happens and I'm trying to ignore it, it doesn't really help. If my colleagues can jump in as well. From my side, I would say if we go back to the 3 circles that Janre spoke about, where you had control, the first circle where you had control, the second one where you had influence, and the third one that you really didn't have control. My advice would be as focus on what you can control, because that's going to eliminate a lot of your overthinking. Because when you overthink, what you're actually trying to do is control things that might not be in your control. And that takes up most of your time, and you end up feeling overwhelmed, feeling out of control, feeling helpless. So rather than doing that, try and focus on the things that you can control, the things that are within your control. In so doing, also identify what your fears are. So if we move back to the comfort zone diagram, Yandri. For us to move from the comfort zone, so the comfort zone here might be you being stuck in your overthinking ways. You obviously want to get out of that because that is not healthy. So what you want to do is to identify your fears. You might be overthinking because you might be feeling that you're less self-confident in your abilities. You're finding excuses because it's something that you maybe don't want to confront. You want to stay in your comfort zone. So identify those fears and slowly work towards taking action. So moving away now from the fear zone into the learning zone. And what you want to do there is to take action. So stop with the overthinking, identify what you can control, and take actions into what those things are. So you're slowly moving away from that. Does that make sense, SP Kupega? If my colleagues want to add on to that, they're more than welcome to, before we move on to the next question.
I just want to add, Zentle, thank you for that comment. I also want to say, before we even get to analyzing what it is we're thinking about or whether we're fearful of it, you should probably just write out what you're overthinking. So every single thought that you have, because my understanding of overthinking is that there's a lot of things in your mind. Write them all out, and then you can split them out into various aspects, as Zintle was saying, moving from the circle from Stephen Covey's circle of influence, circle of control, right through to the comfort zone challenge. First, just write out what's in your head. And that's the visual representation. When you see it, then you're able to then spread it out to see this fits there, this doesn't fit there, this creates the fear, this doesn't. So I just wanted to add that in, okay? That before we even get here, maybe we should just identify all the thoughts that are in his or her mind. I didn't get to hear the name. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lerato. That makes a lot of sense and it adds value. Yes, if I can have an indication from you whether or not you've sufficiently responded to your question. Is BS still with us? Oh, I think not. Okay, the next question that we have is from Shane Nelson, and she asked, I have a question. I've been in a dark place lately with my studies and personal issues. What would you suggest I should do in the mental health challenge task list I was very negative the last 2 weeks and I want to be positive again. Can one of my colleagues take this one?
Shanae, I would encourage you firstly to reach out to student counseling and development for an appointment to just talk about that dark place where you have been or currently are in with regards to your studies and your personal issues. It is sometimes so difficult to think positive and to actually do this mental health challenge or any of these tasks if you're not at a place where you actually have sufficient energy, mental or physical or emotional energy to do. So what I would encourage you to do is talk to a professional, a psychologist, a counselor, a pastor, just to unpack what is currently happening in your life, what is in your control, what is not in your control. First, going through that process, then get the energy back, and before you challenge yourself to say, I think that can be your challenge, is to focus on you and to do the things, go see somebody, speak to somebody, unpack it. And when you have the energy, you can refer back to this and say, okay, now I am ready to move forward and do this mental health challenge. I hope tonight I have answered your question. Okay, I see there's another question. How to deal with the situation where you want something mostly, but should you get it, you start feeling comfort until you lose it again. Cornelia, I'm not necessarily sure what you mean by that. Maybe some of my colleagues, maybe I'm not understanding the question. Is it feeling uncomfortable until you lose it?
Yeah, I think if Cornelia can just elaborate a bit.
Wanele, you are more than welcome to unmute yourself and maybe just say the question instead of typing it out. Whilst we wait for Wanele, does anyone else have any questions, contributions that they want to make to the presentation or anything? Is Wanele still on or has he left the presentation?
The other option is that maybe Cornelia can just send an email to one of the sites. I don't know, Johnny, what do you think? She can just probably send an email, maybe reach out also to student counseling.
Yes. Speaking of reaching out, if anyone identifies that they need to refer themselves to the Student Counseling and Development Center, this is how you can reach us in the different 3 campuses. For Mafeking campus, that's the contact details. For Potchefstroom campus, those will be the details. And for the Vanderbilt Park campus, those will be the details. Please note that, all campuses make use of the online booking service via Ifundi. So you might want to go there and to book a session. You can alternatively call our crisis line as well as our receptionist for further assistance. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. This has been very informative. Thank you so much for the engagements that we were able to have. And if Wanele wants to email either myself, Jandri, or Durato with their questions, Jandri, can you just put up our email addresses? Can we make those available for Wanele specifically? And if there's no further contributions or engagements, yes, everyone,
Okay.
thank you for joining us.
Zinhle? Oh, I think he's gone.
Lerato, did you want to
There
say
is a-
something?
XN Ngosi, there is a question. Yeah, that maybe, Ngosi, depending on which campus you're in, can I just ask you to take your question, because now we've ended the webinar. I think some of the colleagues have started leaving. Maybe you can redirect your question to one of the email addresses here, and somebody's going to respond to you regarding your concern.